I'm going to get the link and tweet out the link on the Twitter. All right, dog.
All right. You're a little soft, so I'm going to try throwing in.
Oh, I'm a little soft. I can get.
Well, I'm going to try. I'm wondering if I should throw in some headphones.
Okay. I was actually a little too quiet on the last record, so I'm going to punch it up a bit.
Let me just see. Also, I don't want.
Do I have a buzz at all to you?
Not that I could hear.
All right.
Let's see. Hopefully these headphones still work. Give it a test.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this is better. Yeah.
Little the link. We might get some action here.
Okay.
And at the end, I'll come back and answer questions if there are any questions.
Okay.
I love questions. Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to do Clayton's part. You're doing my part.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Do you know the beginning? Fuck, how does this even work? All right. Well. Okay, let's see. Okay, starting in 5, 4. Well. Hello, folks. It's not Clayton. That wasn't Clayton, but that was a great Clayton impression.
10 out of 10.
We the Peeps. This is the U.S. Soccer Podcast where you're going to get to know everything that you need to know about the USMNT. I am Ty. I'm not a rapper. I'm an entrepreneur.
I'm Kwame. I'm a doctor.
And we love the Nats.
Love them, love them, love them.
Insert here. How professional am I? Okay.
I'm in awe.
And insert. Well, what have we here? A new hero has emerged for the USMNT. We are going to get into all of it, the exciting, the emotions of last night, the US finding a rhythm in qualifying. We're going to talk about everything that happened last night, break down the game for you. I am not your usually scheduled host. I'm Ty. I'm usually the guy who gets to be, just opine about what I think. But today I'm working hard. I'm taking Clayton's spot on the show because he's on vacation. So I'm your host today. And I'll start with a little housekeeping. Sweep noise. So the first thing in housekeeping is please rate and review our show. If you like our show, if you're listening to our show, you're getting value out of it, please rate and review in iTunes. That really, really helps us out. I think we're stuck on like 96 ratings. And if you can get us over that magic 100, we will be eternally grateful. We've got some fantastic reviews on there that we're going to find a way to read. We'll come up with some character, we'll do something to spice it up and get your words, your reviews onto our air. So please do that. You can also support us on Patreon. We have a very affordable and valuable and just amazing Patreon account. And you can just plunk a couple bucks a month into there. And that really, really helps us out. It is not free to do this show, even beyond just our opportunity cost, which is substantial. We have actual costs to take care of. And if you can help us with that, we greatly appreciate it. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, everywhere you can talk Nats. We're going to be there. We're on Reddit, all that stuff. Find us, follow us. We're on Twitter at WTP Pod. YouTube, search We the Peeps. Did I miss anything, Kwame?
I don't think you did.
Is that pretty much it? All right. End of housekeeping. Let's get to it. Let's get out there. So as Clayton usually does, I'm going to line up the team. Ready? Let's
line them up, boys.
Line them up, boys. So in goal, we have maybe controversial, maybe not, Matty Turner, Matty Two Hands. The USA's number one, apparently. In the center of defense, we have Walker Zimmerman, walk long, walk, just walk, and we have Miles Robinson. Next to Miles Robinson, we have the other Robinson, Anthony Robinson, and we have Serginho Dest out on the right where he belongs. In the middle, we had a midfield trio that was to die. Yunus Musa, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie. Mwah.
That's what we've been waiting for.
Come on. And up front, we had the porcelain prince. No, the other prince, the non-porcelain prince, Brendan Aronson, showing up in Christian Pulisic's spot, doing Christian Pulisic-y kind of things, maybe being better than Christian Pulisic. We'll talk about that. Across from him, we had someone who's definitely not better than Christian Pulisic, but definitely helped the team, Paul Arriola last night. And of course, your number 9 for the USMNT, locked in starter, 18-year-old Ricardo Pepi. And he would go on to have quite a day, which we will get into. In the first minute, there was like 30 seconds on the clock. Paul Arriola gets sprung. I forget who plays the pass, but it's a really nice pass. And Paul Arriola is in on goal, gets very clearly fouled by Kamar Lawrence. Referee says, no, after a long period of time, this is not a red card. This is a yellow card, just a free kick for the US. Definitely not the right decision, but in the 30th second of the game, you can understand it. We'll get to that. In the 18th minute, this was the first time that I noticed that Walker Zimmerman had a black eye. I don't know if he got the black eye mid-match or if the black eye was pre-existing, but it was impressive stuff from him. In the 29th minute, the ref impressed again by intercepting the ball and tackling a player within the same sequence, which was top-notch work. And in the 34th minute, the referee again took center stage when Lowe from Jamaica tackled, I forget who it was,
Aronson. Yeah, it was Aronson.
And it was, by all accounts, a clear red. I thought, he did make contact with the ball. There's definitely an argument to be made there, but very, very controversial moment there. In the 41st minute, we had our traditional visit to the Turnerverse. Matt Turner came up with a really nice save on a very clear Jamaica chance, probably the only Jamaica chance of note throughout the game. We went into half 0-0. The US may be sweating a little bit, but I think feeling pretty confident that they were going to find the breakthrough. And they did. Did they ever? With a golazo through Musa to Dest to freaking Ricardo Pepi, 18 years old, flopping around like a giant fish, baby. This guy, it was a salmon leap, my friend. That was incredible stuff. Ricardo Pepi coming through again for the Nats at 18 years old. He continued his scintillating second half form with some pretty crazy turns and runs. He was clearly feeling himself. And in the 63rd minute, found the net again through Brendan Aronson, who got space out on the left and played in a delicious little ball through to Pepi. And the game would kind of settle down from there. The US got a couple substitutions in. They got Pepi out to keep him fresh for the rest of the camp. Ricardo Pepi, 18 years old, a goal in his first game for the US, a double in his second game. Kwame, what are your first impressions?
Well, this was a pretty fun match. I think that it's a match that, while we can enjoy, I think also invites us to overreact a little bit. And so I'm in a couple of different areas. I think I'm going to be pulling back the reins a little bit. But there are so many things I think that I was happy to see. I was very happy to see Dest at the right back and Robinson at the left back. And I think for the longest time, that has been, in my mind, our clear sort of fullback best pairing. And I think hopefully now we're going to see it. I've been waiting forever to see Yunus Musa. And yes, he was injured last window, but we had opportunities to play him before. And his quality on the ball, I don't even think he had anywhere close to the best game he can have, but he's such a clear difference maker, and he has such clear tools that no one else in our midfield has. I think he just there's so much more dynamism, and Weston can almost kind of lurk in the weeds a little bit when Musa is in the game, and I was really pleased with Aronson, and I thought that we got what we expected from Pepe, as well as Areola. I think that we got
That's what you
Pepe,
expected?
well, I expected Pepe to finish two opportunities that were set up for him very well. That pass from Dest, I mean, it took some skill to redirect that header, but Dest slipped that ball through a very tight window to a very good area for him. And the finish from Aronson, he's just got to make contact and open up his hip. So I expect Pepe, I expected Pepe to finish those, but it's not like he was slicing and dicing up as the number 9, right? So I think we're getting a sense of him, at least I am, as Pepe as a finisher, a goal poacher, a guy with a nose for goal. And when he gets opportunities that good, I think we can feel super confident that he's going to finish them. And that feels pretty good. So those, and for Areola, I think we saw Areola things. He worked really hard. He got about, but he's not a goal threat, right? So much, but he did a shift, and I wouldn't have started him, but I think he did really well.
Yeah, and with this U.S. team, with the buzzing bees around all of these wonderful attacking starlets creating chances, what the U.S. has been lacking is somebody who can just reliably bang it in at the end of those chances. And I thought, of course, the second Pepe goal is much more straightforward, but the first one, I mean, I've seen Giassi Zardes mess that up. I've seen Josh Sargent mess that up. I can envision Matthew Hoppe messing that up. Like any other 9 in the pool, like that's not a nailed on goal, even with the quality of the service. And then there's also the attribute that Pepe has of being in the right place at the right time. And one thing I wanted to ask you about, there was a comment at halftime that I thought was kind of interesting. They were saying that like the fact that Pepe did not drift into midfield in the first half was to his credit, because even though he wasn't getting a lot of touches, he wasn't like giving up on any like potential for finishing off a move by finding himself out of position. Does that ring true to you?
I think there's a certain truth to that. I think there's value in sort of a player recognizing his skills and kind of who he is, right? Pepe has a different skill set than Sargent. And so, for Sargent to come back to try to find the game, that's within his skill set, and I think probably within what Berhalter was asking him to do. I don't think we've ever had the sense that Sargent was, coming into the midfield and Berhalter was like, don't. But with Pepe, I think Berhalter has more quickly perhaps than he might normally pick up on these things, been like, okay, this is the type of player that Pepe is. This is the sort of defense that we're at, and so we're going to try to feed him. And I think we played, offensively a little differently than we do when we have Pulisic and Reina. And I would argue this is, by the way, we should play even when we do have Pulisic and Reina. But I thought Pepe, did well against a team that had a pretty, sort of low block. Now, if the game had gone on without as many goals, I think the question is, could he have done things to kind of open up the space and sort of make good runs? I think he's a good distributor, even on that very early potential red card on Areola. Pepe is very involved in that, right? He's the one that comes back into the midfield and sort of passes it quickly to, I think, to Aronson.
That's right. The pass was from Pepe. You're right.
And he takes a whack as well. And
he really does,
gets up and goes. So that's I think that's a strength of his. There are times where he can get involved. But at a high level, later in the minutes, later in the game, that's something to be seen. But he's a developing player, right? Still 18.
How good do you think the kid is right now? Let's say, so right now he's got 3 goals in 2 games for the US. What would what should we be expecting from him right now? And where do you think he can go in the future?
I think that's so hard to say. I mean, I think he's scoring a lot of goals in MLS, and MLS is a higher quality than it has been in the past, and I think that has cachet, right? It's like scoring goals in MLS has cachet. But I think we really have to see him tested on a bunch of different levels. We've seen him in a game against Honduras and a game against Jamaica, two teams that Jamaica is bottom of the table in qualifying, right? They didn't really pose much of a threat, and they were missing their best player, right? Their 3 or 4 best players were not here today.
Yeah, totally.
And then Honduras, we played them at the end of their cycle. They changed their strategy. They changed their kind of whole lineup, and he really didn't show up until the last 45 minutes of that game. Daryl DK is also banging in goals now for MLS now that his shoulder is healthy, and he's done it at the championship. So I think that while we can give Pepe a lot of credit for what he's been doing in these last couple of games, he's still not very high ahead of where I have DK right now. We need to see more games, I think, from both of them. But that's not a denigration. I just think that both of them still are on an upward trajectory, and there's no reason for us to kind of try. I think it's difficult for us to predict, like, oh, they're going to be here like 3 years from now, right?
Yeah.
Right now, it's like, where are they going to be 6 months from now, right? That's
yeah. Well, yeah, about 14 months from now is a potentially pivotal situation.
Yes, so, 14 months is pivotal.
I guess my question, to put this in context, if you could pick one player to remain with the Nats and one player to, take a long trip to the moon or something, would you keep Brenden Aaronson or Ricardo Pepi? One of them is ejected into space.
Yeah.
And one of them remains within.
Do they have a spacesuit, or is it just straight?
No more detail. No more
details. Okay. If you haven't seen Watchmen, you should see it. But as a weird aside, I would probably keep Pepi. I think Aaronson has proven more, but I think that if you lose Aaronson, you have Pulisic, and if we lose Pepi, I think there's much more of a question mark, right? I think DK is probably going to be a force to be reckoned with. I have a lot of belief in him, but he has not proven it the way that Pulisic has. So
right.
So that's my vote. But I think Aaronson is at a higher level right now than Pepi is.
Yeah. Let's talk about Yunus Musa. So we finally get to see this dude.
Ghanaian American Yunus Musa. Got a rep.
After for anybody who was not tracking this story, basically, Yunus Musa committed to the US, played in a bunch of friendlies, and then just never got the chance to appear in a competitive match, even though there were many competitive matches recently, be through injury or not being in a squad due to club complications or whatever it was. And so he was still not cap-tied. He still had the ability to say, I'm good. Yeah. And over the summer, 2 of the teams he was also eligible for, England and Italy, played in a little game we like to call the final of the Euros. So you could see Yunus Musa's head turning a little bit as he realizes that, maybe chances aren't going to be as plentiful as he thought, maybe with the US. So what did you think of his performance today, and how does it make you feel to have Yunus Musa firmly in the fold for life with the USMNT?
So I'm extremely happy. It was a little confusing why he hadn't gotten more time. I mean, as we said, like this last window, he was injured or just had come back to Valencia. But I think during the Nations League, he was on the bench and never got played, and there was never a clear explanation for why. It's like he's not quite up to speed or whatever. So I'm ecstatic that he has now played for us. I mean, I think it was pretty solid, but you just never know in international soccer, and he might have gotten frustrated, kind of wondering like, why is Leggett getting starts ahead of me? But he is so dynamic. He carries the ball forward with such a threat. He's got such strength on the ball, even though is he 19 yet, or is he still 18?
I think he's still 18. Yeah.
I think he's still 18. He's proving it in La Liga. I think he opens up so many possibilities for us in a way that Gio Reyna also could if we played him in the midfield. It makes it a little less painful, but it also means that we now have that kind of dual threat. And maybe if we have more Musa and we create that style and we have Weah emerge, then that's a awesome 1-2 punch of attacking ball carrying midfields. Who do you pick? Gio Reyna, Yunus Musa. You can do all sorts of formation changes. He really created that first goal. He really put Jamaica in all sorts of trouble, and then had a very sort of simple, very good pass out to Dest. And Dest is going to kill teams if he gets that amount of space that high up on the field.
Totally.
But carrying the ball, because we weren't really passing through the lines well, and when we don't have a team that, despite Berhalter's aspirations and claims, is really passing the ball through the line. Sometimes you just get a man on the ball who can have the ball in the string and break the lines, and then the other team is in trouble.
But we've never had that, so we were like,
it's been a long time since we've had it. It's been a long time.
Maybe Tab or Claudio Reyna. Maybe
Reyna.
Last time we've really had a ball carrier.
Tab at his peak. Nagby in flashes.
Sure, Nagby on his good days. I definitely think of Yunus Musa as like the reincarnation of Darlington Nagby. The two of them, I feel like you watch the ball move, you watch them touch the ball, and it's just this it's different. It looks different on TV. I don't know how to explain it, but there's something much more like elastic about the way that they control the ball, and it adds a lot. And so you mentioned the effect that this had on Weston, which I saw as well. And we saw Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Tyler Adams in a midfield trio that was just perfect. We talk on this show sometimes about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. How you want to have a diversity of threats. Like if in your center backs, you want to have a more mobile center back, you want to have a larger center back. You don't want 2 large center backs or 2 mobile center backs. And this is the ultimate in variety. You have it's like the bacon, lettuce, tomato of midfields. You've got your destroyer-y kind of 6, your hard 8, and this silky 10 to move the ball forward. I mean, it was just so good. What do you make of this? Is this is this real? I'm pinching myself.
I mean, this has been the midfield that I've wanted to see for a while. And it's almost like instead of two 8s, like Musa is like an 8.5 and Weston is like a 7.5. And not in terms of rating, right? But Weston can be a little bit more, sort of. I didn't think Weston had a particularly great game, but I didn't think he had a bad game. I think he had a pretty kind of solid game and was able to kind of show up where he needed to, and kind of showed up all over the field. And Musa was offering different sorts of threats, and then Tyler could just bomb around, cleaning up, protecting the back two, which is important, right? Because if we're going to play Dest and Robinson, which I think we should, right? But that often will leave Adams with a lot of work to do to help cover the center backs.
Yeah.
But he's tailor-made for that job, right? So particularly if we've got other people that do work in the midfield, that puts us in a really good position.
Yeah. It's like Adams and 2 center backs is a solid defense against many situations. I mean, you can definitely get around that, but obviously it's a limited Jamaica team. We don't want to go too crazy, but I can only really remember one moment for each center back where they looked at all under pressure or strained, right, in their coverage.
Yeah. Our center backs were never really tested in the way that Michel Antonio would have,
Right.
or Leon Bailey running at them, might have in space that Dest had vacated, right? Leon Bailey running into that space. That's a whole different test, and we didn't see that. I thought it was interesting the choice of Walker Zimmerman to go alongside Robinson, not because that I don't rate Zimmerman. I mean, I don't think. He's not in my top 4 center backs, but I wasn't like, oh, what are you doing, Berhalter? Like, this is a disaster.
James Sands.
But yeah, but more in the fact that Zimmerman had been the replacement. And so if he wasn't in your 6 center backs that you called in,
right. That's weird, right?
That he starts. But, sort of thinking about it as, it's the first game, you're wanting a more, CONCACAF seasoned, because the alternative, right, is to put Richards in probably, right? I mean, McKenzie was, kind of so in the last window. I probably felt a little better with Zimmerman over McKenzie, and so it's Zimmerman versus Richards. I think that this is maybe a game to put Richards in to sort of get him some minutes, but Berhalter saw it differently, and I don't hate it. I'm curious as to his plans for Richards, and if he plans to give him many minutes in this window.
Right, and to me, the game in this window that you would use Zimmerman is the Panama game, where you're going away, tough environment. You're probably going to be under some pressure, and I feel like Zimmerman is just perfect for those situations. The guy doesn't give a fuck. He just shows up with a black eye for unknown reasons. Like he's hard. He's hard, and that's exactly the kind of quality that we are lacking a lot of the time in those games. Like I remember the last Panama qualifier. I think we trotted out. It was like Brooks and Ream, and they're both really nice. They're just too nice. They're not going to elbow somebody. They're not going to show up with a black eye. Walker Zimmerman's going to fuck somebody up, and that's what I think we're generally missing in those kind of spots. So it did surprise me that he picked Zimmerman for the home game and didn't go with a more, a player who could contribute more to the offense and so on.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think, Miles Robinson is maybe somewhere in between. I think our center backs most likely to, throw an elbow or, stand over someone while trying to help them up are probably Zimmerman and Miazga.
Matt Miazga.
And since, we decided not to call in Miazga, which was an option, then, Zimmerman is, sort of the default hard man. So, I think it'll be interesting. Maybe he's planning still on playing Zimmerman in Panama and then Richards in the home game against Costa Rica, right? We'll see. But I think if we're in a position where Adams is sitting in front of them, then we don't have a ton to worry about. Now, the question is, can Adams play 90 for all 3 games the way he did?
Right. And
I guess
backup, right?
Right. I guess we put in Acosta late in this game.
Yeah. But I guess it's Acosta. Yeah. They've been working on that. Like they've also had Acosta at times going to right back, which I think they want Adams to do at times as well. So it seems like Acosta's kind of Adams' understudy, but he has apparently played in 18 games in a row or something for the US, like all camps. It's
Acosta.
Wild. Yeah, Acosta. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like Acosta. Happen? I think he's a solid player. I think he's really versatile, and I think he's he's got his degree in CONCACAFing, right? Not just like a bachelor's. He's got a master.
He's like the TA of CONCACAFing.
Yeah. He's got some sublime CONCACAFing. So I think that I have no. If Acosta's coming on the field, I don't really have any real concerns about that. I mean, I don't love him at right back just because I don't think that's where he's strongest. But I think, we have reasonable cover there. So I don't think we'll see him there in the way that we did in the first window when we, to me, sort of inexplicably brought 2 right backs and then started them both in the first game, although one at left back. So hopefully Berhalter has learned from that in terms of like how much ammunition he has.
Right.
But yeah, I'm very happy with Acosta.
I didn't see any weirdsies here, really. There wasn't anything that stood out to me as like obviously bizarre. Anything stick out to you? Yeah.
No, I think nothing bizarre. I think there were a couple of things where I in the starting lineup, I'm always going to say Weah over Areola, and I think the minutes that Weah, I think the minutes that Weah was on the field, I think it's clear that he's above Areola, but I also don't think it's super clear that Berhalter has Areola over Weah. I think that he thought for this particular game, and maybe for the games that are ahead, that he wanted that balance. And I think Weah, in the time that he was on the field, was put it in, it was a blaring neon sign, right? Saying like, put me in, coach. Like I'm the most dynamic offensive player that you have in camp right now.
He is a spark.
As Aronson is playing, and Weah, you can play him, probably across the front line, and he's the player. I mean, I don't know. He may be the player playing at the highest level at his club team, right? I mean, he's defending French champions
champion of France,
right? Knocked off PSG in a toe-to-toe battle, right, where they had no margin for error last season, and he had valuable minutes off the bench. So, we could talk a lot about CONCACAF and being prepared, but Weah, I think, has never been a player where we've really had any doubts. Even going back to like the U20 World Cups, right, back in those days, and like those games against France.
Right.
I thought that Weah was the pillar of that team. The one that wanted the ball, the one that was doing the things that the team needed the most and couldn't get from someone else.
Agreed.
So yeah.
But is he a guy like I feel like I have so much fear and trepidation about these hothoused European pros who are kind of pampered and like I've been in the press media availability after games, and they come out of the locker room and they've got their like Gucci clutch. It's like this shit that like professional athletes would never have done like 30 years ago. They're like these affluent elite kind of people. And so then you throw them in San Pedro Sula, or you throw them in whatever venue, and it feels like, man, are they really going to be able to adapt to this? Are they really going to be able to play up to this level? And in the Honduras game, we saw, Pulisic got injured. I think he definitely has the heart and the grit to fight it out. We didn't see Weston. We didn't see Gio. I don't think there's any questions about Tyler. But Weah, I'm kind of on the fence. He's like a literal world prince. Can he, the fashion forward, New York / France dude, go into a really tough away match in CONCACAF and actually perform his best, or is he going to be thrown off by the circumstances?
Well, I think that I don't have any worries about Weah. I think that yes, he's a prince, but also there's a lot of pressure. I mean, being George Weah's son and then becoming a professional soccer player,
it's fucking crazy.
I mean, hopefully people know it. His father was, World Player of the Year, star at AC Milan, and then also like having your father be president of Liberia. I mean, yes, Prince, but yes, like that's a ton of pressure, right? It's like my dad keeping the country functioning right now. He was at PSG, but he left PSG and has had to scrap and fight at Lille. He's always been in, our youth tournaments, right? And those haven't always been, don't always go easy places. He's had to fight his way back from really tough injuries. And I don't think I've ever felt like I've seen him shrink away from anything. Also, let's step back for a second. Some crazy things happen in the French league, right? I mean,
oh my God, yes, totally. And Conrad de la Fuente is involved as well.
Yeah, like the Marseille and Lyon, right? People coming out of the stands onto the field, and right, like France is a crazy league.
Intense.
It's very.
Lille is a working class city. It's not like he left that gilded circumstance and he went to somewhere that it's sort of like the Manchester of France,
Yeah. And he was not handed, his place, right? He's had to fight, and he continues to have to fight for it. And I think him going to Panama or kind of any other place, I think he has wanted this, and I think he's got a resolve where I'm not concerned about that. I'm really not concerned about, I'm really not concerned about anyone in this team, frankly. I mean, I think it's a different sort of pressure, right? But playing in front of like the yellow wall at Dortmund, playing in all these other places, it's not like it's a pass. It's not like if they don't play well and they walk out of the stadium, they get a pat on the back if the team didn't play well, right? Like it's there's people ready to burn it all down. So
Gio is probably the one I fear the most. That he's just like, he's so cocky that he can't deal with like suffering for 89 minutes to find the 1 minute where he's going to find the breakthrough. And Dest, I feel similarly. So I do have some fear about Serginho Dest going down to Panama and just kind of sucking.
I think there's some young players, and we'll have to see, and they've got to learn a few things. But I think that's also because they're early on in their careers. Gio, Gio has had a pretty meteoric rise, and he's doing really well. But he also is on a team that sort of very offensive, and like those are most of his capabilities, and haven't necessarily shown that fight. And I don't know if we can really blame that on Gio, because I think that's a criticism against Dortmund the last couple of years, and it shouldn't necessarily be on Gio, right? I mean, Hummels and Royce and like Akanji and and all these guys, right? That Delaney, that's who it should be coming from, and I think that's who Gio should be learning it from, and he's not really. So the fact that it may take him a little longer may count for something. But he recently against Mexico, right, got straight up hit in the head by a bottle and partially concussed, right? So if he at the next game is like, I don't care, right, still playing on edge, then I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about him in the least. Right, but it's going to take some time, and Dest as well. But I think these are lessons these guys have to learn. But I also don't know if where the aspirations of this team are, right. I think our sights should be set high. So
totally, yeah.
I don't know if we need Serginho Dest to learn how to CONCACAF it up to get this team where we want it to be, no. Especially if we've got like just loads of depth in other places. I think we can still let Dest be Dest. And if we have a tactical setup that, allows him to sort of do that, then, if we're in like, knockout phases of like the World Cup, right? Like Dest can do his Barcelona thing. I think also this will be an educational year for him at Barcelona, right? Barcelona is straight up struggling right now.
Straight up.
I think
they're going to have trouble qualifying for Champions League.
Yep. And there's going to be there's going to be some fights. His coach is probably going to get fired. The Dutch coach that probably has favored him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to learn a lot this year, and I think that's going to serve him in good stead. But he's still 20.
Yeah. Easy to forget. So this is a perfect lead in to talk about this Panama game. I forget what does Clayton always ask me? Oh, who are these people? Tell us about Panama. What's it usually like when we go down to Panama? What are you expecting from this game? What should the US be looking out for?
So an important caveat here is, like many US fans, I have selectively cauterized many of my memories of the 2018 qualifying cycle out of my brain. I do remember like Torres's volley to get Panama into the World Cup, which is a pretty glorious moment, right? But Panama, I think, generally has been, in many ways, I think, a typical, for us, kind of CONCACAF team and battle, right? It's been a difficult place for us to play. It's been a very intense away experience, a very hostile crowd. One only needs to crack the first chapter of US geopolitical actions in the 20th century in Central America to figure out why.
Yep.
But they are usually a very solid defensive team with quality players, and they will take their chance if they can get it. And we should probably expect a pretty physical game. And Panama, Panama took apart this Jamaica team. They beat Jamaica 3-0
at home, 2-0, right?
Yes, I think at Jamaica. So this is definitely not a team that we should sleep on. And it'll be curious what sort of lineup we put in. What the conditions of the field are. We're a little, in some ways we have more depth, and in some ways we're a little lighter in terms of our roster than we would otherwise like to be.
Right. So what do you think the most important thing is for the US to get right in order to succeed in this game?
I think that we need to build on this performance in terms of our style of play. I think that we need to have patience, but also directness in our attack. Not necessarily long balls, but I think that we're not yet passing the ball around quickly enough to sort of unbalance them with the ball. But I think that what we probably we'll still have sort of a talent superiority. I think we have to be patient. I think we can't get rattled if we don't get the calls, if we have hard fouls. And I think we have to be willing to win in a variety of ways. I think that we can do it. I don't think we necessarily have to do anything special, but I think we have to be on it from moment one. And what we can't do, I think, is what we did in the first half against Honduras, because in general in soccer, I don't think there are many times where you can recover from a bad first half. And I especially don't think we can do that against a Panama team that is likely stronger than this Honduras team, and is not, it's not the third game of the cycle, it's the second game. They should still be in a good position, and they're wanting to qualify.
They're flying high. They had a great first camp. I didn't see their result yesterday. Oh, let me look that up real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I forgot to check.
El Salvador beat them yesterday.
Okay,
so they're gonna be pissed.
Yes, they're gonna want points. It's very, very interesting, day of qualifying, right? So US beats Jamaica, but Canada ties Mexico. I didn't see the game, but apparently Canada was all over Mexico the first half in Azteca, and probably is feeling a little aggrieved that they didn't walk out with a win from, from the reports I was seeing. So, there's a lot in the mix. The US can put ourselves in a really strong position.
Yep.
With good performance the rest of this window.
Yeah, this is the opportunity. But so I just wanted to go real quick back to that Honduras game. So what, in your opinion, was the difference between that first half and the second half? Why did the US come out so flat, so lacking so much energy, and had such a bad time in the first half, and what did they do to turn it around? So what do we have to do? In other words, what do we have to do in the first half that's going to be different in this Panama game?
Right. So, we started Honduras right in the back three, right? And
yeah, it was like that weird. It was like
right, and we didn't start
7-3 or something. It was like some weird situation. Yeah.
Yeah, and we started George Bello on the left, and I think that we didn't. Weston wasn't there. I think there was a lot of things that were kind of unbalanced, and we tried to do too many new things. And then in the second half, one, I think Honduras got tired. Two, and Berhalter himself sort of said that this was a major factor, that Honduras changed their formation significantly. That gave us more space and made it much easier for us to attack them. It kind of opened up a little bit as opposed to being in that low block. But then also, we put some of our best players on the field, right? I think Robinson at left back is just a step up from Bello, and once we started playing more directly against a sort of tiring Honduras team, our talent went out. So I don't think it was this great tactical masterclass or adjustment. It was sort of going back to, this is probably what we should have been doing right in the first place.
Yeah, it was like an unmistake or something. It was like the adjustment was to just unscrew up the team from the first half decision.
Yeah, and I think that in some of the criticism, I recall seeing that first window towards like Brooks and Dest was in the language of, do they want to play, do they want enough, do they want to play for the US, which do they have the passion, which I take issue with. I think these are players who have demonstrated for years. I mean, how long has John Brooks been playing for the US, right? I mean, he scored for us in a World Cup, right? It's very easy for these players, if they didn't want to be there, for them not to be there, right? To, have a little dodgy hamstring, or, sort of like a back or a family issue, right? And not come, right? In a way that is, is not going to ruffle feathers, but it's sort of understood. And I think there is sometimes this, this sort of desire in the fan to say, like, well, if you're not running hard, if you're not sprinting all the time, that you're not, that you don't have passion. And, I think sometimes the case, but often if a player is confused about what they should be doing, what happens is inaction, right? Because if you don't know where to go,
right, it's
worse to sprint further in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction,
right? You just be like, all right, well, I'm going to take off now, right? If you sprint towards where you maybe should be, or you think you should be, and actually that's not the right position, and now you have two players and you've opened up this huge hole, then you're sort of worse off. And I think that is part of what I was interpreting, and maybe this is overgenerous, but I was seeing that with Brooks and with Dest. At times, like, okay, maybe they should have gotten the horse, but other times, right, Brooks is sort of stepping up in the middle, and then it's breaking down, he's turning around, and he's like, wait, what? Who's, and then is sort of trying to go, and then it's like not entirely sure where to go.
Right.
And I think that's a large part of what we were seeing. And if we play players in their natural position, and it's more simple and it's more direct, then I think we see them play more where they need to. And then also we say, all right, well, we got Tyler sitting there, and it's a little bit more obvious, right? We don't necessarily have our center backs stepping in quite the same way. Not that they can never step, but never in quite the same way. So that's what I saw.
So oh my God, I can't wait. I wish the game was right now. Game is Sunday night. It is at, I believe, 6:00 Eastern. We are not going to be able to join you live during that game as we have been usually. We will for the next game, the Costa Rica game. But we will be recording live on Monday at some point, time to be announced, to review the Panama game. And I cannot wait to see how the US shows up in this. So I want to end us, as we often do, with some hopes and fears. So you just gave us some great insight on what the US team needs to do. But what do you think? What's your biggest hope? What do you really want to see, or fear? Give me whatever you got.
I think that my hopes are that we start to see real connections forged on this team, right?
Yes.
I mean,
brotherhood.
I am more critical of Berhalter than I think you and Clayton are. I'm more, but he has built a really good spirit in this team. But I am firm in my belief that in 5 years, when the US is hosting the World Cup, our aspiration should be semifinals, right? With hosting, with this quality, semifinals of the World Cup. And so I want to see us start to build things that in 5 years, in the semifinal at the Rose Bowl or wherever, right? That Yunus Musa is slipping through Timothy Weah, right? And it started on a pitch in Panama. So that's my hopes, right?
Be still my heart. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And I don't have a lot of fears, except I guess I would say, I don't really have a lot of fears, except for if we shake things up again and the players start to have doubts and find themselves second guessing instead of playing, right? They're having a lot of fun. I want them to continue to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be my fear too. And my hope is that the US takes it to Panama and out CONCACAF's Panama. I want to see yellows flying around.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking, when was the last time a US player got sent off? Like, I can think of like a Jermaine Jones sending off, in the Copa America 5 years ago. And I really can't think of a red since then. And it's just not really part of our culture to like go at players, but I kind of want us to do that a little bit more.
Yeah, we don't have many players, right? So again, maybe like Walker Zimmerman, right? I don't think he's going to get sent off, but it's fine. I think we have players playing on the edge, and I think the players that can do that, are probably Adams a bit, definitely Acosta, definitely Zimmerman. I don't think Yedlin does it with sophistication, but he can do it.
He kind of like accidentally gets reds,
but you're right. I think we do have a lot of like nice players, and I think we do have to be ready, for CONCACAF playing CONCACAF refereeing. And I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I actually did briefly want to go back for a second and talk for a second about the yellow cards, right? The yellow cards that I think a lot of US soccer media has been saying that were red cards. And I personally, I didn't have an issue with those being yellow cards and not red cards. And I'll briefly say why. So for the first one, right? So it's a clear yellow. But I think to give a player a red card in the first minute of the game, not for like a 2-footed tackle, but for denial of a goal scoring opportunity, you have to be 100% sure that that's what it was. And there's a lot of things that factor into that, including, distance to goal, right? Sort of like angle on the field. And I
Quality
think
of player.
Well, I don't know if you can take that into account, right? But jokes about that. It's not denial of a clear goal. It's denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity. And Ariel would have had a clear opportunity. But I don't think you can guarantee that from 40 yards out that Ariel Orella doesn't get run down or has sort of pressure on him. And I saw a lot of criticism that the referee, took too long to sort of decide or sort of show a card. But this was a game without VAR, right? This is a massive call. He blows the foul, and then he goes to his assistant referee, who also had a very clear view, and says, "What do you see?" And then he produces the color card that he thinks he can produce. And unless he goes over to the assistant referee and they're both like, "Yes, 100% red card, he's got to go, we've got no choice," then I don't think you can do that, particularly because this is CONCACAF, right? And there are different, not standards of refereeing, but there are different sort of rules and sort of playing, sort of like playing style and standard. And games there are different norms. Yes, thank you. And so I think that was very much akin to in line with the norms of CONCACAF refereeing. And I think the one on Aronson, I think that also was within the norms. I think that he got the ball. I didn't think it was he got him a bit on the follow through, but it wasn't a particularly scissory, sort of deadly trailing leg. Aronson kind of jumped out of the way a little bit of it. This is my view of it anyways. You seem to maybe have a slightly different view.
No,
but I think he got enough of the ball, and he was clearly attempting to play the ball that for me, I think it was not a foul. And then, what people were saying is that, okay, if you're going to call a foul there, then according to the letter of the law, right, then you do have to give a red card there, right? If it's and I read the rules, and yes, but I also think that if the referee realizes and sort of thinks better of it, then I would rather have him make the right decision for the game than the right decision by the letter of the law, because I think that's a little stringent. That because I think that would have been unfair, because I actually don't think it was a foul. I think that he got enough of the ball.
All right, people. So you heard it from Kwame. This is an area of life where I personally struggle, because for me, I'm like, dude, if it's a foul, if it would be a red in the 80th minute, why is it not a red in the first minute? And many people make sort of a more holistic argument about how these things should be judged. They should be judged based on the effect that the decision might have, rather than simply based on the act. And I struggle with that personally. And I know a lot of people out there do as well, especially when it goes against your team. So hit us up on Twitter. Tell us what you thought of the fouls. And I love the debate, but I do agree, by the way. I really like your point about the timing. I don't mind the referee taking a minute to think about it and figure out play stopped, it takes less time than VAR. For him to talk to someone and come back and make a decision. I don't get the problem with that.
Yeah, he has. I think he has to do it before producing the card. If he had VAR, right, that would be, maybe he handles it differently. I think it would be appropriate to potentially handle it differently if he had VAR. But I think that, perhaps I'm a little bit more holistic, than you. But I think it's not so much it's not so much that it has to be, if it's a red card is different in the first minute than in the 80th minute. But it's if you're going to say it's a red card in that time, you have to be 100% sure.
Yeah, it's a gradient.
Right.
it
Is it, yeah, it's a
demands
great,
higher standards.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Where you can be like, okay, I'm 90% sure, like in the 85th minute or something
Sure,
like
sure,
that.
sure.
But there's sort of no coming back. There's no more consequential, there's nothing more consequential to an outcome of the game than a red card in the first minute of the game. I'm not an
Yeah,
analytics
it's a
person,
game
but I
ender.
think so.
It's a game ender. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, people. Well, it has been an absolute honor to host this show, to be here with my dear friend Kwame, and to talk Nats with you all. Just as pleasurable as watching the Nats get 3 delicious points in World Cup qualifying. And we cannot wait to join you again Monday, time TBD, for another exciting live stream podcast. And in closing, I have to do the thing where I love things, and I'm just gonna talk about some items that I have around here. So I love dark chocolate. I don't really like any other desserts, but I love dark chocolate, and I love seltzer. Seltzer's like a healthy version of soda, but I don't like any of that shit as much as I love the Nats. Let's go, boys. Come on. 9-point window.
9-point window on to Panama.
All right. I'm ending the recording. Very well done, my friend. We have a couple questions from the gallery here.
Nice job hosting.
Thank you, sir. Javier says,
oh, we're still live. All right.
We are still live. We are
Yes.
still live. Javier says, Pulisic shouldn't start. Hasn't scored or assisted off the run of play in 2 years for the Nats. I don't know if that's true, Javier. Is that really true? But I get the argument. What do you think? Does Pulisic start?
I think Pulisic starts if he's fit. I also think that there's a world of difference between the attention that Pulisic gets from CONCACAF teams and the attention that Aronson gets. I think when Pulisic is on the field, he is the focus of the defense, both in terms of how they structure things tactically and their fouls. He has to go to all sorts of different places to get space. And Aronson does not have the same respect in CONCACAF because they've seen Pulisic dice people up in the Premier League and, against Mexico. It's a whole different. They
don't want to get posterized.
Yeah. So I think Pulisic, is a better player than Aronson, and I think that should still count for a lot. I think that we would also do Pulisic favors if we tactically set things up to favor him. One of the things that I took away from the Canada game is that Canada was like, Alphonso Davies is our best player. How can we get Alphonso Davies in key moments in the most dangerous position? And they did it, and that's how they scored their goals. And Berhalter has not done, I think, anything close to the equivalent for Pulisic. Now, he doesn't have to orient the whole team around him, but I don't think that he has helped him with his strengths. I mean, even just things like playing Dest behind him and Dest wanting to cut in and Pulisic wanting to cut in. So, I mean, if Pulisic is not having a good game, then I think that we can maybe put Aronson in like the 60th minute or 65th minute, as opposed to waiting for the 80th minute and feeling like Pulisic has got to pull something out till he's exhausted.
Right.
So I'd go that far,
yeah.
but I don't know if Aronson starting over him, I'm ready to go.
All right. Yet. And your thoughts on Paulie Nips?
I mean, he did what he's expected to do. I mean, I think it's funny. I was looking at the roster ahead of the game, and this was somehow Ariela's like 9th cap. And
what?
How is that possible?
How can that be?
Because he's been around for forever, but he's also had a ton of missed time for injuries.
I would have said like over under 28.
Yeah,
something like that,
right? But I think that he's been
he has 40 caps for the US.
Is he a 40?
40 caps, 8 goals for the US.
Okay, I think I was like, I must have been
Okay.
looking at the goals. Or oh, you know what it was? I think it was caps in World Cup qualifying, not caps in general. And I was like, what? So, anyways, forget what I just said. All right. So that definitely lines up more. But so how many goals?
8 goals.
Yeah. And I think that we can safely say that he's had great opportunities to have like another 8 goals and not taken them.
Dude.
So
yeah, in multiple Mexico games, he's had the opportunity to put a freaking dagger into Mexico, and he's missed.
Yeah. So that's a limitation that Ariel has. He has some limitations, but but I think that he can be relied upon. And I think in these sort of CONCACAF games when when our depth at the front line has been hit a little bit more than we would like it to be, with the absence of Pulisic and Reina, and like not calling in Sargent. I think he's serviceable. But is he on my World Cup roster? He's not. But that's not to malign him by any means.
Yeah. He's sort of like the, I don't know, Subway sandwich of USMNT players. Like it does the job. It does the job. It's not special. If you have other options, you're going to go with those options. But if you're at a rest stop and you have to eat a Subway sandwich, great. I'm happy. Next question. What do you think about Joe Scally? And this person, Michael asked about Joe Scally replacing Serginho Dest, which is totally insane. But just in general, your take.
Well, was he asking, because Dest picked up a bit of a knock. So I wonder if he's asking that on the roster.
Dest never does anything for us, which is totally
he just had an assist.
He just broke the game open with a winning assist. Yeah
No, I think Dest
I love you,
I think Dest is super talented and does a lot. And it's not like he just showed up, right? Like Dest has been representing the US at youth level for years. He's growing into his own. I think he's super valuable. But, so I have not yet had a chance to watch Scally play at Mönchengladbach. But the fact that he's getting regular playing time, scoring in the Bundesliga at a top tier Bundesliga team, they're generally kind of top 6, knocking on the door of the Champions League, getting valuable playing time at age 18. That's huge. I think Gladbach is pretty injury hit right now. And so what his minutes will be as the season develops will be key to see. I think that, I was a bit surprised that he didn't make the roster. I think that I read some speculation that Gladbach is so injury hit on their back line right now that they basically pleaded for the US not to bring him in because they just can't afford any more injuries. And if the message to Berhalter was, please don't call him in because he's going to be playing regularly for us in the Bundesliga for the next couple of months. And we've got cover with, sort of Shaq Moore, and this is like a less challenging window potentially. 2 home games. I'm okay with that, but I definitely want to see him at the next window.
Yeah, minor downgrade for us, if any downgrade, and huge upside for Gladbach to keep it, right? Yeah. What new formation would you like to see us try, if any? 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, 4-1-2-1-2, diamond, 4-4-2 diamond.
Oh man, I'll let you answer that first. I want to think on it for a second.
I hate new formations. I don't want any discussion. I don't want even to consider anything but 4-3-3. If once we get so good at playing 4-3-3 that we're like, you know what? We can even take this to the next level. We can mix it up a little bit. Fine. But we are not there yet. We need to just stop fucking around and just play 4-3-3 every time. That's my opinion.
I mean, I think the only thing that I would, if it was brought about by injury, and if we've got injuries and if we're behind and we've got to get some goals, then I think that I am maybe on board with us doing either a 3-4-3 and a 3-5-2, where we're like Robinson and Dest just bomb forward as much as possible. And we've got, I don't know who sort of was saying, like Richards, McKenzie, sort of Brooks back line, or maybe even I guess whatever our speediest back line would be, and we're saying like McKennie and Musa the midfield. We just need to like kind of like attack, and we feel like the width is the best place to do it. But I think that's a pull the cord on the parachute sort of solution for me, rather than and let's say we're light in the midfield, right? And so it's like, do we put on, if we're like, oh, do we put on Roldan to stay in a 4-3-3 when
Like,
we're
let's say
chasing the
Adams is
game?
hurt.
Right, let's say like,
Adams is out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Adams is out, right? And we're chasing the game. Then I want us to stick with like McKennie and Musa and like a 2-man midfield,
Yeah.
and push Dest and Robinson forward.
And it's like, it's like Miles and McKenzie and Brooks as the back line. And like they can distribute, they can contribute to the attack, and you've got the wingers doing their
maybe
thing.
Richards
like,
over McKenzie, but some
Richards over McKenzie.
Yeah, but some derivation of that. And then we just kind of and we rotate people on the front line. But aside from that, I'm really happy with the 4-3-3.
Yeah. Last question in extra time here, injury time. Looks like Richie Ledesma, was a rumor going about that he might jump ship to Mexico. That would really upset me. I love Richie Ledesma.
Yeah.
What do you think, both in his case, and then Julian Araujo and Efra Alvarez left over the summer, and then David Ochoa also left. What do you make of these losses potentially to Mexico?
Well, so we've talked a lot about the sort of dual national, like two countries that we love kind of situation.
We're both dual nationals,
right?
Yes.
And so I never have any issue with a player picking a country aside from the U.S. to represent. Both. I don't think it means they hate the U.S. by any means. I think it's a difficult decision, and I think it makes sense, but it's also a bit unfair to make people pick, when they're sort of 18, 19. I do think that the U.S. Soccer Federation is still recovering from many years of not valuing dual nationals of Latinx heritage. And I don't think that they have made it clear enough that it's a priority. I don't think we've made it hard enough. I don't think we've made it a hard enough choice in many of these instances, right? I think that there's a lot of value to the approach that it seems like is coming now from Berhalter and maybe US Soccer in general, which is like, we're building this really fun, energetic thing, right? This really energetic group, and it's young, and we're gonna be hosting the World Cup, and we want you to be a part of it, and we invite you to be a part of it. But there's years of that not being the case, and not being the message, and being dismissive of Spanish-speaking players, and not scouting sort of players, and and the people who are kind of 18, 19, like now, like their parents grew up with a U.S. Soccer Federation that had that bent, and they haven't sort of forgotten that. That's still sort of very much in the air, and so I think that there has to be better recognition that it's not as level a playing. It's not as it's still sloped, right? Like we still have an uphill battle, I think, to convince some of these players that they are fully valued, fully seen as integral parts, sort of fully kind of like American, right? And so Ricardo Pepi, is sort of great, but I think it's very easy for sort of doubt to kind of slip in from any of these players as to where they stand. And I think U.S. Soccer has to recognize their past sins and make up for it. And maybe they are, right? But I think they also have to realize how little room for error they have. Like Efra Alvarez, he like didn't get called into like a camp when there wasn't good communication, and that was kind of it. We'll see about Ledesma. Ledesma is interesting because he's only just now, right, coming back from like a year on the bench with an ACL tear.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he might be thinking about switching to Mexico now. If he is, sort of, what does that say about our communication with him during like his rehab, during like a time where he was probably being like, am I going to have a career? Like, what's it going to look like? And him and the kind of Alex Mendez, right? Several years ago, like this is sort of what we were projecting kind of moving forward. So it would make me sad, if he makes that choice, I think, and also sad if it's a choice where he feels like, he wasn't valued and we didn't do enough to push back against that narrative. Because let's be honest, right? Like, I mean,
absolutely.
U.S. Soccer is, the president changed
twice,
right? But I mean, Sunil Gulati and Carlos Cordero were pretty much cut out of the same cloth, right? Then Cordero, right? Yes, haha. Mission, surprise. Yes. Sidney Parlow Cohn is a completely different person, and brought him because of Cordero's awfulness. But the board of U.S. Soccer is very much the same. How much power the president has is yet to be determined. Brian McBride, who I have a ton of respect for, is the general manager, but who exactly is in charge of steering the ship in terms of these sort of dual nationals? Is it Berhalter? Is it Stewart? Is it McBride? Yeah. Is it someone else? And how much does it matter that sort of none of those figures I think have strong ties to kind of Latin America. I don't know if any of them speak Spanish.
Interesting.
I don't know if you know that.
I mean, you can certainly say on balance they've been more successful recruiting European dual nationals.
Yes. Yeah.
So
they have been.
That was our last question, so we'll have to close it with that. But I just want to register that it's very clear that the Japanese American community is underserved by U.S. Soccer. I've received zero contact. It is zero contact, zero call-ups. Offensive. No youth camps, nothing. I've been here. So anytime, baby, anytime, Ernie, you want to call me up, you got to wine and dine me, Right. This is not going to be a cheap date for you, Ernie, but you can get me to commit. I'll put it out there. Whoever calls me up first, that's what I always say.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful people. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you for being here. Please come back. Please subscribe.